Hello and welcome back, Edward Osvich. Bob Prisbillo here from the SoonerScoop.com studios on Campus Corner. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube page. I guess a midsummer stickball report. It never ends, it seems like, but Oklahoma has picked up a couple portal additions. There's a couple. I think that there's one, namely, that a lot of people are waiting on with Canady. We talked to Justin McLeod last week about just kind of where everything stood as we get through the weekend. Any closer? I mean, that's where we got to start there with Canady.
Yeah, I mean, everything still feels really good as far as where OU stands with her. I still don't expect anything today or this weekend. Can someone beat out OU's pitch? I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to us saying, what is Canady really looking for? I mean, that's hard to really describe at this moment, but there's nothing that OU can't offer. The question is, will it be enough for her?
She wants NIL. I think OU can cover that. She wants a place to play. I think Love's Field is decent enough. And, obviously, trying to go for a fifth straight national title, it would be a bolster in the arm. Obviously, there's a lot of attention being paid on, certainly what is in the circle and what isn't in the circle for Oklahoma. Real quick, just to recap, the three, let's not call them defections, but the three members of the Oklahoma softball team from last year that have moved on. Avery Hodge announces she's going to LSU. Quincy Lilio announces she's going to South Carolina, and S.J. Guerin's headed to Auburn. 3 transfer portals out of Oklahoma, and they're all headed back into the SEC.
I mean, it just goes to show, again, whatever you think of, were they, the also-rans when they were Sooners, that's still really, really good. And especially, I think, someone like S.J. Guerin, that's the one I'm kind of circling. I think we know Hodge will be really good with the Tigers, but I think Guerin might surprise people with what level she can get to. I don't even know if she got to that level at OU, would it even help her? Would she have still been like the third or fourth pitcher? Most likely.
Probably,
but
yeah.
I think SJ has a really nice future, and I think that's a great pickup, Auburn.
It's just kind of crazy that they're headed off to other places, and they all are going to end up back on the schedule at some point or another. With Oklahoma obviously headed over to the SEC. Let's jump back to Sunday. Oklahoma did get some good news out of the transfer portal in terms of folks that are joining the program. Let's start with Abby Dayton, the Pac-12 hitter of the year in the Pac-12 conference, coming from Utah. You look at the numbers, 431, two-time All-Pac-12 selection, outfielder that I know that I've seen some of her arm in some of the highlights that have been out on to the Twitter sphere, but another really good pickup, third-team All-American. I would imagine she's going to slide in to find a spot in Oklahoma's outfield next season.
Definitely. You mentioned her arm, and there's a lot of highlights out there of her making diving catches, too. Something, of course.
Okay. Well, it's going to take a minute for it to be Jada Coleman again, but it does look really like they have added one of the top outfielders from the portal.
Yeah, and this is something we just mentioned a lot last week, where the uncertainty with Hannah Core, I don't know how much that played into things, but we knew that they needed someone here at this position. Abby Dayton makes a heck of a lot of sense. You mentioned the hitting. It's just OU fans going to have to get used to, she hits well, but she doesn't have power.
Sure.
It's like you've got so spoiled with Tiare, as we talk about Shortstop, and Jada. Is like that's such a rare combination of having the average and the power numbers. And what Dayton doesn't bring in power, that's okay. What she does bring in terms of the batting average, in terms of the patience at the plate, and her overall ability, and a couple years. And that's what it's been interesting to sort of watch it during the last week and a half. Not a lot of 1 year type of portals. You can see Patty Gasso trying to target people that are going to be around at least for a couple years.
Just 2 home runs, as you mentioned, but she did hit 431. She did end up with 28 RBIs, and as you said, seems like the on-base percentage is going to be up there. I don't know where they're going to have her hitting in Oklahoma's lineup next year, but she did draw 27 walks a year ago for Utah.
She did. I feel like if you put her leadoff spot, Ella Parker second, you're going to get things rolling.
Just need a little bit of protection.
Very nicely to get it started in 2025. But, yeah, just maybe your prototypical leadoff. Not the one that provides the pop and the power, but the one who's always going to get on base and kind of set the table.
She was the number 2 portal addition for Oklahoma because before her it was Isabella Emerling from North Carolina. And just imagining the heir apparent for Kinsey Hansen behind the plate for Oklahoma.
All we needed for the first Go Boomer was for me to be celebrating, me and Brittany, our 10th our anniversary.
You knew as soon as you rolled around it this week,
Friday.
it was going to be that night, right?
Exactly. I put the tweet out saying about our 10th, and I think it was like 20 minutes later, Go Boomer. Like, there it is.
Patty was just waiting for you.
There you go. And you knew, obviously, going back to what is leaving from 2024, they had to hit catcher. There were a couple names.
Sure.
We looked at Washington. We look at Texas Tech. But what Emerling brings, not only offensively, but defensively, I think that proved to be the difference maker.
323, 14 home runs, 53 RBIs for the Tar Heels a year ago. And, once again, I think it's another example of Oklahoma not necessarily being able to just pick who they wanted, but at the same time, it kind of feels like that, especially at catcher.
And it resonates well because the rest of the softball world was angry about it.
Love
like,
it.
No.
She's joining the evil empire.
She's joining them. But again, there were a couple catchers. And when we talk about shortstop here coming up, there's been a couple options. It's not like OU was going to get them all, but they were going to get one.
Sure.
They weren't going to get shut out at a position of need when there's available players that absolutely check the box. So get in Emerling. Obviously, that wraps up the catcher spot. I don't look for them to add a second catcher there. Again, you're just going up and down the board, checking off your boxes, and feeling really good about where things stand. Here's we had like more of a week 2 type of mindset of trying to get some of these portal visitors to commit.
So let me ask you now. They have 2 spots locked down. You would have 3 spots still available, right? Possibly.
I think what has been brought to my attention, I was wrong last week to just say flat out it's 3.
Okay.
You can have 22 in a home game, but you're just basing off of last year.
Sure.
It was 21. So I don't know how Patty and the staff will navigate that. Do they want to add another piece? It's been up as high as 23 or 24 before. I just feel you would feel pretty confident if it goes to 21, and if it does get to that point, then yes, you're talking about 3 more spots. And in reality, aren't we just talking about 2 more spots and waiting for Nigel Canady and however long that process might take?
Now, there has been a little bit of innuendo, I guess we could say, out there with Isabella Smith, a pitcher out of Campbell.
Yes, she put it on her Instagram on Sunday night. She's picture airport. Guess what airport this is?
Yeah.
It's like that.
It looked familiar, right?
It looks like Will Rogers. I'm pretty sure that is. And then Monday afternoon, she posted a picture from a hotel room. I'll give a shout out to Stoops Brothers on this one. Recognized immediately because of the football visitors. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the Noun Hotel.
Yeah, sure.
That's the one that's right across
Unless
the street.
we got a bunch of frauds out there that are recreating the Noun's rooms, right?
Exactly. So, and you knew that the pitching pool isn't very deep, but you needed a second one. Even if you get Canady, you still needed another name, and Smith might be the best one out there. And then she posts Tuesday morning about coming soon, same picture of her in a hotel room. So that feels like a matter of when at this point. But you're looking at the Colonial Pitcher of the Year, someone who's a lot like Carly Keeney in the sense that she's been the workhorse.
Sure.
So that's all she's known.
206 innings last season.
Couple no-hitters. She beat Duke in April.
Okay.
She's got the resume.
Sure.
Kind of like how Carly beat the Bruins when she Liberty. Like someone that won't be afraid of the big-time moments, but someone that you're not asking to be a number one. To not go out there every single Friday night and try to lead the team.
26-7, 201 ERA, struck out 238 batters a year ago. So obviously the numbers match up, and I think that there's probably a reason why Patty Gasso even makes the call to try to kind of test the waters there. I think I was looking at her bio too from Campbell. She actually started her college career at James Madison, so I don't know how much overlap there, but we'll see. That's kind of where we're at right now with softball. We'll see.
Yeah, we've got Smith, and then I think the other one to watch because we know it's shortstop.
Right.
And it's been Riley Holtor from Washington. That's been the one I've circled for the last 2 weeks. I'm crossing her off. I'm not saying that OU doesn't like her, but I think they're going to go BYU
Interesting.
Ilana Agbayani. And if that name...
I'll leave that up to you to pronounce.
You remember Benny?
Yeah.
That was her father that played baseball.
No kidding.
So you remember her sister was also with the Cougars, and what OU fans remember is that she went 4 for 5 in that game where BYU beat OU 9-4.
That was one of the first earthquake games. In terms of oh boy, this thing's gonna be a long year, isn't it?
And she was a very late portal entry, not June 17th was the deadline. The paper, everything was filed and completed by June 18th.
Okay.
So kind of under the radar that she was even in it. But that sounds like things are progressing very well in that direction. So if you get Smith, Agbayani, then you wait for Canady, and it's kind of like everything that OU is looking for has kind of just been checking it off one item at a time, going at its own pace, going exactly as planned.
Seems like there's been a tremendous amount of patience, and to a certain extent, and I guess you can do that. That's the luxury of being the Oklahoma softball program and the dynasty that is right now. There's a lot of people that are wanting to come in and play for you. Kind of be picky and choosy a little bit.
I would agree with that 100%. It's just kind of, there's a wealth of talent. You don't have to say, well, I want to take this player, but I know they don't do this. No, you can keep searching until you have found every, attribute that you need for the 2025 team and bring them in. And, what it feels like, if you bring them into Norman, they're going to be assumed.
Sure.
If you've gone that far to say, we want you to come to Norman, then that's just about, as long as you arrive for your visit, you're probably going to leave as one of the members of the 2025 team.
No doubt about it. Coming up on Monday, a unique experience ahead at Love's Field as part of the mega celebration that is for Oklahoma moving to the SEC. The gates will actually be open. I think everything's going to be open at Love's Field. It's a little bit of an open house come 5 o'clock on Monday.
Yeah, and for the first time, we'll be right there with you. There's no media showing beforehand. When we get there Monday at 5, and I'm going to bring Pearl with too, that'll be my first look at what the locker rooms look like.
We've got a little taste of the locker rooms.
Was it
Abby Dayton's announcement, I think, had a little bit of the maybe the locker room or something behind her. But at the very least, I'm kind of interested to see what the indoor facility and all that kind of stuff looks like. The parts of Love's Field that we weren't able to see even when everything opened. God, what was that? Back in March?
Yes, when they were still putting in bleachers. In between games and stuff, trying to get it all finalized. So they're also doing that with the Switzer Center with football. But I know a lot of people, myself included, very excited to see what went into Love's Field and how does it not only separate itself on the surface and appearance, like watching the field and the bleachers, but all the amenities that come along with it.
I think we saw on, was it Isabella Emerling's announcement or whatever, the picture of her sitting on the field with the trophies and then the scoreboard and stuff in the background. That was pretty cool. They did a really good job with that stuff. I guess when you have
8 trophies
that you can lay around, it's nothing photoshopped about that, but it will be interesting. The college baseball season comes to an end on Monday night. Tennessee, a 6-5 winner over Texas A&M to win the Vols' first national championship in baseball, which is kind of incredible that they had never been there, nor had A&M. Obviously, Tony Vitello's group gets it through. Now, how does that relate to everything that's happening in Norman? It came out on Monday morning that Texas is making a move at head coach. David Pierce sent his walking papers. And, I think that, the obvious connection here is, and I know that Pete Nakos has wrote something up on it on 3.com, just in terms of, would Skip Johnson be somebody that Texas hollers at? Would would he even be a real candidate? I mean, I think that he is a candidate. I just don't know if he's going to be one of these guys that wows a lot of people. And I don't say that in a demeaning way by any means. We'll get to more about Skip in Oklahoma here in a second, but I definitely think that it's a job that he would listen to. It certainly makes you a little bit uncomfortable knowing, kind of where the direction of the program was because of everything that they were able to accomplish this season. But, the Jim Schlossnagle thing or the Tony Vitello thing that was out there on Monday afternoon leading into the final game of the College World Series, I just don't know. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense that either of those guys would end up leaving Knoxville or College Station to go coach in Austin, and especially for a program that just fired a guy that had taken him to the College World Series 3 times. But I think everybody has to listen, right? I mean, it is Texas, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how all this kind of unfolds now. Like more, I guess, locally, regionally, whatever you want to call it. Skip Johnson was named the Coach of the Year for the American Baseball Coaches Association Central Region on Tuesday afternoon. Obviously, a tremendous honor coming off of a season in which you won 40 games for the second time in 3 years. You won a Big 12 regular season title for the first time in school history. Now, all that's in the past. You're moving on to the SEC, but at the same time, tremendous honor for Skip and everybody involved over there at Eldell Mitchell Ballpark, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this all unfolds over the next couple weeks.
How happy do you think Skip is with the direction, not only of the on-field product,
sure,
but everything that comes along with the OU baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's happy with it to a certain extent. I think that, a lot of people would like to see some construction vans and all that kind of stuff, some trucks over there, and start moving this thing a little bit more in terms of the renovation and the updating over at Eldell Mitchell Ballpark. But at the same time, I think that, they have a tremendous base. You saw that over the course of the weekend at the Norman Regional with the attendance and everything that they've been able to do, even really over the last 2 years with attendance in Norman. It's coming along, but I think that, much like everything else around right now, it could probably be a little bit better. And especially when you look at, all the numbers that were thrown out there with the SEC teams that have been involved in the College World Series. Oklahoma had the up close and personal experience 2 years ago against Ole Miss. You saw it this year with A&M and Tennessee fans packing the place up at Charles Schwab Field. So it could be better, but I don't think that it's necessarily a push the panic button by any means. You want to keep Skip around, that's for sure, bringing him back for his 8th year in Norman. And, I think a lot of what they're doing right now in the transfer portal as well. I know that they've been extremely active with a bunch of JUCO guys and bringing them in. They have the number 1 shortstop in the country coming in, which, I think kind of led and made a little bit more sense of Isaiah Lane, the freshman infielder, entering his name into the portal. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do with him and Jackson Willits. I know that Kyson Witherspoon and Malachi Witherspoon just reported to Team USA. And, what a busy couple weeks for them as they both pitched for Chatham up in the Cape Cod League. And now they're headed down to Cary, North Carolina to play for Team USA in kind of their training camp, I guess is probably the best way to say it. I think they end up cutting that list of like 50 guys down, each week. And then you obviously have your national team that goes and tours everywhere, around. So it'll be interesting, man. It's going to be really interesting to see what they can do. Now, the good news is they did get a commitment from Cameron Johnson.
Looky here.
They got a looky here from Cameron Johnson, 6'5" left-hander from LSU. He only appeared in 13 games a year ago, pitched only 9 innings, but I think when you go back to like projection and all that kind of stuff, he's going to be one of the elite arms, and I think that he could certainly fill into a weekend role with Oklahoma. Number 2 left-handed pitcher in the country per perfect game coming out of IMG Academy, where he spent his final year in high school. Obviously, really good pedigree there for guys that they throw out, and I think he was number 11 overall. Ended up drafted number 20th round by the St. Louis Cardinals, but obviously he's in college now, so you don't have to worry about that for a couple of years. But really good pickup. Cameron Johnson, I think, is one of the bigger arms. Now, he's a little bit raw. He's going to have to work on it a little bit. Didn't throw a whole lot of strikes. He did strike out 13 over the course of those 9 innings and the 13 appearances, but, small sample size. But it looked really good when he did it. So we'll see. If you get him in working with Skip Johnson, I think
there you go.
The proof is in the pudding there, how that can turn out. So right now it's kind of like a wait and see, much like softball. And I think like the next barrier or the next like speed bump to get over is just making sure that Skip's going to be back for year number 8. I think that's most important right now. And so if you're an Oklahoma baseball fan, I think that you would expect or you would love to hear somebody else's name jump up for the Texas job. I just don't know if Vitello or Schlossnagle, I don't know how much sense that makes. I've heard the Esquire guy from Stanford's had his name out there. Brian O'Connor's name been thrown around, but I think he just re-upped with Virginia. So, I wouldn't say that it's push the panic button or anything like that, but it is something that you have to be cognizant about moving forward.
Is there anyone else? We mentioned softball about maybe potential portal landings. Is there anyone that you got your eye on?
Not really. It's been so quiet. And I think that a lot of it has to do with just everybody moving through, kind of getting everything done in Omaha. And then you really kind of buckle this thing down here over the next week or two. And, for the most part, though, I think everybody feels pretty confident with not only the guys that are coming in in the recruiting class, but especially some of these JUCO arms that, I'll be honest, just not incredibly familiar with. But if Skip Johnson's hollering at you, I imagine he can see something in you. And, certainly some guys that are going to need to fill in the back end of that rotation, as well as, maybe make some starts, whether that be through the midweek or, how you use Malachi Nelson. Is he going to go all the way into the starting rotation for Oklahoma this next season? I think that's going to be kind of interesting moving forward. So did see Jackson Willis is playing up in the Cape Cod League, though, doing extremely well. And, for a kid that was just a freshman a year ago, that's obviously headed in the right direction. So, we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Still going.
I am excited, though, about the Lovefield stuff coming up on Monday night at 5 o'clock. Yeah, let's see that. Let's see that picture, because I thought it was pretty badass with the backdrop of the stadium. Like the scoreboard still does a whole lot for me.
And they also say it looks so much better at night.
Yeah,
because it looks like, as they've said, it's floating. It's floating in the air with the outline.
I don't know whose idea that was, but it was credit to them. That was pretty cool. And I like the even the red on the light poles and stuff. Kind of some cool ambiance. So I don't know if they'll be able to turn the lights on turn the lights off, I guess, when we're over there on Monday. It's going to be a little hot. The sun is definitely going to be out, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on this stuff. And obviously, if anything breaks with Nydre Canady, we'll be right here, right back at the SoonersScoop.com studios, kind of recapping it, because I think that would be the the final, I guess, punch in the side of social media that would absolutely go ablaze. Yeah? All right.
Oh, yeah.
For Bob Przybylo, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you right back here for another Stickball report on the SoonersScoop.com YouTube page.